Good morning. Getting started. Thank you all for being patient and bearing with us. I know we're getting started late. So I'm going to make anything I say very brief, as in I'm not really going to do it. So I'm just going to introduce somebody that you probably know from his mixtape, but if you're pretty wonkish, you may be familiar with something he did recently. He ran for vice president. I don't know. But anyway, here is Spike Cohen.
Is it okay if I move this?
Yes.
Oh, well, I don't stand still very well.
I would suggest that you use the other one, please.
The other one?
This one right here.
Oh. Well, but if we end up doing Q&A, then
You
people...
can switch to that.
I can switch to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
This mic is working.
Atlanta, Georgia. How are y'all doing? Thanks so much for coming out. I hate that I missed all of the business yesterday. I had a tragic thumbing accident yesterday, so I was in the doctor's office. By the way, I just wanted to share, I don't know how, I'm pretty proud of this. You don't have to applaud or anything, but I did my own tie with this thing on my thumb. And I'm left-handed. Thank you. You didn't have to applaud that, but thank you. So, folks, I wanted to talk with you real quick. They gave me a half hour. I'm going to give a little brief talk, and then really more than anything, I want to hear what y'all have to ask and answer any questions that I can for the rest of the time. So I'm going to speak very briefly, famous last political words. So for those who, you know, the last time I was here, when was the last time I was here? Oh, last time I was here, there was a hurricane. So I talked during a hurricane. So shout out to everyone who stuck around during the entire hurricane. When it came down pretty hard too. It was actually pretty dangerous. That was the one time I thought, is this safe that we're doing this? So we had a fun time in the hurricane. And the time before that, I was here for last year's Georgia convention. And of course, when I was here last time, I was talking about free ponies, and cheesy bread and zombie power. Now I'm here to talk about something much more realistic. Getting libertarians elected across the country. If anyone had laughed at that, you would have had to leave. So, as you may have heard, I ran for office last year. And Joe and I ran for president and vice president. And I went across the country, 35 states, close to 100 campaign events, got to meet tens of thousands of people. Most of the events were legal, a couple of them. Listen, it was an odd time to campaign because we're campaigning at a time when in some states it's illegal to be outside while other people are also outside with you. And in those cases we said, we're just gonna do it anyway because we have every right to peacefully assemble. So we campaigned across the country. We talked about our platform, we talked about the Libertarian platform, we talked about our solutions for the future, we talked about all the hits, ending the war on drugs, ending the Fed, ending the IRS, all the stuff that gets us all excited. We also talked about things like ending the lockdowns. We talked about things like making healthcare and higher education and housing more affordable by deregulating it and opening the markets and taking the cronies out of it, putting it back in the hands of the consumer. We talked about things that connected with everyday people. And I felt like we did a pretty good job. And then election day happened. And if anyone had laughed at that, you would have had to leave too. So election day happened, and we're watching the results came in, and as you know, the Libertarian Party got the second highest number of blah, blah, blah. We got 1%. And
Came in third.
we came in third. And that's, by the way, thank you, Ted. That's what I say to people. I say, I ran for vice president. I came in third. I don't say how far behind I am, but we came in third. And I was pretty disappointed. I was happy to hear about the victories that we did have, including upsets like Kalish Morrow winning in California. I was very happy to hear about how close some people got. I was happy to hear that Ricky Harrington broke all the previous records for a Senate candidate. I was happy to hear about Donald Rainwater getting double digits in a very, very hotly contested three-way race where he was being outspent as much as 100 to 1. I was very happy overall about how they did, but I certainly wasn't happy about our performance. And then the next morning I wake up and I'm getting phone calls and text messages from people congratulating me. And they're saying, congratulations, you just got the second highest blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, that's fantastic. But I was concerned because we know the positives. We know that we got the second highest number of votes that a Libertarian ticket's ever gotten. Yes. We know that we got the highest number of votes that any Libertarian ticket's ever gotten during a year where an incumbent is running for re-election. We know that the Libertarian Party grew by nearly 50% in membership last year. We know that the number of people that registered in their state as Libertarians grew by something like 10%. We know that our membership is at its highest level in 20 years or something like that. We know that dozens of Libertarians got elected at local level, and we got our first state legislative win in Wyoming. Actually, the first state legislative win in the country in almost 20 years. We know that a lot of good things happen. Now, raise your hands if you're satisfied with that. Yeah, that's how I felt. So will admit I was confused when people were congratulating me. And I realized something. And this is something a lot of people don't want to hear, but I'm already here, so I gotta say it. Many Libertarians, and I would say the Libertarian Party broadly speaking, it probably started as a defense mechanism and a coping mechanism, but we have a culture of losing. We have a culture that goes through a 4-year cycle. We start off right around now. This is when our cycle starts. And we get excited and we go, we're going to end the Fed. And we're going to end the wars overseas, and we're going to bring the troops home, and we're going to end police brutality, and we're going to end the war on drugs, and the war on guns, and the war on income, and now we've added the lockdowns. We're going to end the lockdowns. We're going to end all these mandates. We're going to end taxation. We're going to end, we talk about all of the things that we want to do. These are our goals. It's why I'm here. I'm not here for half measures. And this is what we talk about. We're going to end all of these things. We downright fantasize about what we're going to do when we get into the White House and take over Congress and completely destroy and dismantle what the Republicans have built over the course of over 200 years. And we talk about this and we get all excited about it. And then we go through the motions of making sure we get the ballot access, and we pick our candidates, and we run, and we talk about what happens when they win, when President Jorgensen gets in there and takes her big shredder out. This is stuff I said. Takes her big shredder out and destroys all those executive orders, and then we get single digits. And then we say, well, of course, yeah, the system's rigged. The system's rigged. They're not going to let us on. They won't let us in the debates. They won't let us in the polls. They won't give us any real media attention. The system's rigged. And then we lick our wounds for a couple months and come back and repeat the cycle. Now, who here thinks, round of raucous applause, who here thinks that's going to lead to victory one day? So why are we doing it?
The principle.
So, how do we win? Well, we already know that. We do win. We win, right now, we have the capacity of winning in local races. We still have to run the national races. I understand all the ballot access reasons and everything else. I'm not saying we shouldn't run a national ticket, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't take it seriously. I'm saying that we currently win races at the local level. So there are 3 things that we need to do. Man, I can't even make a 3 with this thing on my thumb. There are 3 things that we need to do. I'm left-handed, so this is going to be tough. We have 3 things that we need to do. And what I'm going to do now is just keep using the same finger over and over again as I count to 3. There are 1, 2, 3 things that we need to do. Actually, I'm going to use this. We have 3 things that we need to do. Number 1, the most important one, is we have to focus. My wife is not enjoying it. Number 1, we have to focus at the grassroots level, okay? I was all over this beautiful country. And this state's my favorite, by the way, I'm not pandering.
So the same thing in Tennessee.
That's the 2 applause lines so far I've gotten is telling you that you're my favorite state, because I'm here right now, and then telling you that I did my own tie with the thing on my thumb. Here's why we need to focus on the grassroots. Number 1, it's where we can win right now. And number 2, I went across the country and I saw people at the local level, people like Angela and Dave, and people like that across the country who would come out from the local level and do with pennies and nickels what it takes national $10 and $100 bills to do. And they were able to do it quickly and effectively because they were right there. Our entire ideology is based on the concept of individualization and decentralization. We should be applying that to how we think about things for our own party and how we do things. When we decentralize and put more focus at the local and state affiliates, that is when we are able to be more effective and more efficient with what we have. Now that I know I gotta start with this, it helps to count. So we gotta focus at the grassroots level. That's the number one thing. Because it also drives home how we can win right now. Because we have the capacity to win many more local races when we focus on them. And it won't be hard when we get enough of those wins to scale it up and be able to win statewide races. And then it won't be that much harder to scale it up and win some congressional races or some statewide races, like a gubernatorial race or something like that. But it has to start where we can do it. It also combats the three, see I know to do three now, the three biggest objections that you often hear when people say why they don't vote third party or why they don't vote Libertarian. We've seen all the polls that show us that as much as 2/3 of Americans want a viable third party to vote for. And we show up and we go, that's great news, we're a third party, you can vote for us. And they go, so anyway, we need a viable third party. Here are the objections that, not just us, but any third party hears. But here's the objections we hear. Number one, you can't win. So we gotta vote for the lesser evil. Now we can sit here all day long and try to explain to them how the lesser evil fallacy is a lie and that they're both on the same side. All that. We can do all that, doesn't matter. They don't believe it, and they don't think we can win. You combat that by actually winning races. When they say you can't win and we say, actually we just won 100 races last year, and we got 100 more that we're gonna win this year, that helps combat that. The second thing that it combats is, well, yeah, your ideas sound good, but what's it actually going to look like? And instead of us going into some kind of long Rothbardian rant about, what will happen when we press the Rothbard button and government goes away and, we replace it with the invisible hand and, instead of doing that, we can say, here's how it works. It works like Cassandra Fryman, who's mayor of Plymouth, Ohio, who routinely vacates marijuana convictions and vacates any sentencing for speeding tickets. It looks like what Kalish Mara was fighting for to end the lockdowns in her area in California. I'm blanking right now where she is, but in California. It looks like what Trisha Butler is doing in Tennessee. Taking entire sections of their code of law in Clarksville, Tennessee, and just saying, no to all that, and then getting it passed. We can say this is what libertarian governance looks like. And then the third objection that we face the, you're never going to win. You face the, what's it actually going to look like? And then the final thing is, I've never heard or seen of you people. Well, now you have. You've seen them in city council. You've seen them in the mayor's office. You've seen them in the county council. You've seen them in those types of things. So that is why we have to focus at the grassroots level with wins that we can get today, with the affiliates that we can get today. That's why I'm going around to all these state conventions this year, next year, moving forward, is not just to get you guys all excited about winning, because we do that very well. There are plenty of people that can come in here and say, we're going to win, we're going to end the war on drugs, we're going to end this, we're going to end that. That's great. That's wonderful. I can do it too. I'm pretty good at it. It means nothing. I'm not going to jerk you around for 20 years. We need to do the things that can actually win. Now, here's the second part to that. In order to be able to get someone onto your side for who should be in office and whose values are the best, you have to effectively communicate to them. Some of you might be very angry right now that I'm saying that, but that's the reality of it. The fact is that most people have never heard of our ideas. So that's a good problem to have. Once we can get our ideas out to them, then they can hear our ideas and we can get somewhere. But what if when they come to us to hear our ideas and they ask us how they can afford health care, we tell them that they don't have a right to health care and that that's their problem, and what do they think, that they're owed the product of our labor? Now, that's true, but that's not how you talk to someone that doesn't understand our ideas. Because what they just heard is, I don't care about you, I'd rather argue with you over theory, and I see you as a bad person for wanting to know how you can afford to pay for your health care. Right. So don't do that. What we do instead is for example, with health care, we talk about why, first of all, we empathize with them and agree with them that health care is ridiculously expensive in this country, and increasingly ridiculously expensive. Then we can explain that we understand how we got here. We can start explaining the programs and the intrusions on the market by government that led to it, and then we can take them on the journey for how we got there. And we can do this with everything. We can do this with healthcare, with education, with immigration, with foreign policy, with monetary policy, with inflation, with the lockdowns. We can do this with everything. You empathize first, then you reflect back that you're listening to them, and then you show them how we got here, then you show them how we can get out of it. That is classic sales and marketing, how to make friends and influence people, whatever you want to call it. That's how you get your ideas to people. So that's the second thing that we need to do. We need to be local, and we need to be effective messengers. And the third and final piece, which I don't think we're going to have a problem with, because this we seem to have in spades, we have to be brave. We have to be bold. We have often in this party been faced with a false dichotomy. It's interesting. We go after people all day long who say you either have to pick Democrat or Republican. You either have to go conservative or liberal, even though those words don't even mean anything anymore. But we go, oh, buddy, there's so many other options. But then in our own party, we're given our own little lesser evil. We have to either pick the lesser evil of watering down our message so that we don't come off as unrelatable and presenting a milquetoast version of our ideas, or we have to be brutalists and say that troops are murderers and that parents that have kids in public schools are welfare queens. We have to be brutal and mean. We have to hurt them because our facts don't care about their feelings. Well, facts don't care about anything because they aren't good people. Our facts don't care about their feelings, but we need their feelings to get around to our facts, or they're going to continue to vote against us. But we need to be bold. We can't water it down. Right now, we are facing the single biggest, in our lifetimes anyway, the single biggest intrusion upon the American people as a whole that has happened in our lifetimes. There have certainly been bigger intrusions to specific groups of people and individuals, but this is the first time that the vast majority of Americans are being told, or have been told up until recently, whether or not they're essential, whether or not they're allowed to go outside, whether or not they're allowed to work, whether or not their kids are allowed to go to school, whether or not they're allowed to do really anything. And it's for your safety. Even though all the data is showing us increasingly that it wasn't for our safety and it didn't really work, and there wasn't a huge difference between states that had lockdowns and similar states that didn't, that has far more to do with seasonality and population distribution than any kind of regulation, but they're still telling you that. And the Democratic Party has completely signed on 100% to it. It is their baby. The Republican Party, depends on who you ask. Some of them are for it, some of them are against it, but they're certainly not willing to talk about the facts of why we even had the pandemic so badly here to begin with, because they're just as enmeshed in the CDC and the FDA and every other bad thing to come out of Washington as the Democrats are. There's only one group of people, there's only one side that can present the reality that this was a serious pandemic that was not taken seriously and has continued to not be taken seriously, and that you've been punished for that. And that's the Libertarian Party. We have to be brave, we have to be bold. Remember a few months ago, when even the suggestion that maybe kids could go back to school, maybe people could start seeing each other in rooms like this, was tantamount to killing someone's grandmother? See how it's already changed a little bit? You now have mainstream people saying, you know, maybe we can start reopening or reconsidering some of this. We need to be the ones who are at the forefront from the beginning, saying, we said all along. I love that I'm able to point out that I made a video back in March when I was voluntarily quarantining for 3 weeks because I was sick and didn't know what I had, that lockdowns don't work and that we shouldn't do them. We need to be the party of being bold and brave on all the issues. Not alienating people, finding ways to relate to them, but being bold and saying the things that no one else will say. And that is how we can win. Who here actually wants to end the Fed? Who here actually wants to end the war on drugs? Who here actually wants to end the genocide in Yemen and the endless wars overseas and bring the troops? Who here wants to end tragic boating accidents in our time and end ATF and give you back the ability to say, whatever you damn well please? These are the things that we can do, but we have to do the work that isn't sexy. And I say that looking very sexy. But we have to do the work. I love saying things and I'm watching my wife's reaction. I stand in front of you looking almost as sexy as my wife, saying that we need to do the not sexy things. We need to do the local stuff. We need to get people elected at the local level. That is going to be my focus for the next few years. Get people elected who have a shot of winning their race. Yes, we need to have people running for Senate and governor. Yes, we need to pour what we can into them to get as much statewide and national attention as we can, but our number one focus needs to be on stuff like water and sewer conservation districts. Because all it takes is one member of a water and sewer conservation district making some change that saves hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to residents in that area, and you just got hundreds or thousands of people to vote Libertarian for president. That's where it happens. Who's ready to win with me? Me! Well, thank you. And with that very short speech that I just gave, how much time do I have for?
Time is irrelevant, Spike.
Time means, this is day 2 of the convention. Time means nothing.
Do you want to take a couple questions?
I can take a couple questions. So if anyone has any questions, I'll take a few. You tell me when it's last question. And the
You'll
mic
want to
is...
switch out, yeah.
Yeah, so now we're switching out.
It would be cool if they would set up there and that I can get them in the camera instead of like.
Oh, okay. Have them over here? Cool.
Where would you like this?
You stay.
Oh, I stay here?
Oh,
I do the podium thing.
Right there. Set it down and then point it in that direction.
This direction?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, sir.
So if anyone has any questions, feel free to come down. I would be happy to answer them. Yes!
Yeah.
The first one's always the greatest.
That's right.
Adam, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good job, Spike. Doggone. So you talked about winning these local elections. What plans are in place, implementable plans that can be handed to the local and state chapters to make that a reality?
That's
it. An actual plan.
So that's an excellent question, Adam. Again, break it. The first one's always the hardest. I have places where it took a good solid 3 minutes of me cajoling the crowd to bring out the first question, and then after that, they just poured out. So thank you for that. I'm actually working with some people that we're creating two sets of plans. Number one is basically building, and we're working with National on 2 things. First is affiliate in a box, which is LP National's plan, and we're bringing some people together to help with adding some tools and some resources to that, which is how do you go from 0 to successful local affiliate? You know, what is your blueprint to do that? Putting that together for them. And then the second part is I'm also working with people on putting together basically a similar thing, candidate in a box. Everything from how to message, how to identify what's in your area that you should be running on, how to identify interest groups and individuals that you should be reaching out to, Second Amendment groups, anti-lockdown groups, Black Lives Matter groups, police accountability groups, ACLU groups, any free speech groups, any kind of groups that we are at least somewhat fellow travelers with, and being able to connect with them, and even stuff like website templates and templates for press releases and messaging and things like that. The beauty of these races are, a lot of times, they're nonpartisan races often. They often aren't terribly funded, meaning like you can get someone in there for like a few grand, or even get a really great candidate at a few $100 and really be able to turn things around. And when we get enough of these people elected, and we have a serious slate of people at the local level and at the county level and at the state legislative level, and even a few mayors of some not small towns, it's very easy to say, see all this stuff that we're doing here? Like that? We can do that even higher. We can do that in the State House, taking over the State House. We can do that in federal offices. I am working with, and one of the people that I'm working with is a guy named Randall Daniel, who was just elected chair of Libertarian Party of Kentucky. And the reason he was elected chair, and I am name dropping there, the reason that he was elected chair is because of his ability working with some other folks like Byron Cabbage and a few other people in Kentucky, to go into areas that had no Libertarian Party presence and grow affiliates seemingly out of nothing, basically by giving people the tools of how to go and reach out to their loved ones and neighbors and colleagues and associates and say libertarian stuff to them, start a conversation and say, actually, I'm looking to start a club, you want to join it? That club happens to be a county or city libertarian affiliate. We're looking to expand that across the country. Those are two things that are kind of, not only do I not see them as mutually exclusive, they're kind of inseparable. Local affiliates and candidates. It's the local affiliates that help push the candidates, and it's the candidates that help draw attention to the local affiliates. So thank you for your question, I appreciate that. See, look how much easier it is now.
Hey, Spike, Martin Cohen, I'm from around here.
Hey, man.
I was very impressed with both of your campaigns. I was so impressed with the energy that you had. I'm thankful that you came to see us at least 3 times. My question is this. You know, you saw a lot of people, tens of thousands, maybe, I don't know, thousands certainly. Was there a question or a issue that really was hot and difficult for you to deal with that you had to think about and say, I need to deal with this a little bit differently, this is a hot issue?
So, thank you for that question. Everything that I deal with is very easy. No, I decided long before I was going to run for anything that I had to have good answers for most everything. So it wasn't, I'm not sure there was anything that anyone threw at me policy-wise that was difficult. In fact, the running joke that we had on the campaign trail was that the questions that would trip me up were things like, who do you want to play you in a movie? I'm like, I just forgot every actor's name, and stuff like that, but like policy questions, not so much. I think the biggest thing was when we would have, there's a lot of stuff on this podium, when, the biggest problem I had was when I had a podium and would keep knocking stuff off. No, I think the biggest issue I would have was when people would come and basically be a clean slate. And so they would say something like, well, how does libertarianism fight corruption? Okay, and in a 4 or 5 minute phrasing, how do I encapsulate things? And I learned that the beauty of that format is that no one expects me to so fully educate them that they walk away with a brain full of knowledge. I'm basically giving them just enough information for them to go, wow, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard, and then go off and find out more, or join their local affiliate and get more involved and find out more. And so, for example, with that question, my answer would be that we know what the root of corruption is, power. And we know that when you centralize power, you are putting more power in the hands of fewer people. And that not only does that not work even if those people are perfectly incorruptible, because even if I'm given all the power in the world, and as we all know, I am perfectly incorruptible. Incapable of being corrupt. I tried once, it was terrible. Even if I had all the power, I couldn't possibly tell you how to live your life as well as you can. And if I've taken everything from you, I can't possibly evenly distribute it out as fairly as y'all could with your money and your power and your freedom and ability to make decisions. So it's better to give it to you. But, as we know, people are corruptible. And the more power you give them, the more likely they are to be corrupt with it. And so I would say the answer to corruption is dismantling the systems that create, entrench, and grow corruption in the first place. And that's what libertarianism is built around. Now, the old podcasting me would have spent 25 minutes talking about that. So I had to learn prior to the trail and on the trail how to encapsulate that into the 3-minute answer I just gave. So, thank you.
Hey Spike, thank you for coming out again, and you've been great. You've been wonderful for the party, for the campaign, and everything. And so you've done one hell of a job. The big thing that I heard you talking about was communication. Mm-hmm. And I know with my other county affiliates, one of the things we're doing is we're kind of new, and one of the challenges we face is if we want to run a local person on a county commissioner board, right? We need that person to live in that particular district within the county. Right. And the hardest thing we run into is, how do we get our message out? How do we even tell people, hey, there's a county affiliate, even at the state level? Because what I find out is when I talk to somebody who's like on the fence, they're like, oh, I didn't even know libertarians were a state thing. I thought they just ran a national.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the struggle we come up with is, okay, well, we have Facebook, but that's limited, and then we also are a smaller affiliate, so we have limited funds.
Of course.
And the communication channel becomes difficult to, knocking on doors is a time-intensive thing to do, and it requires a lot of resources and time and whatnot. So what other kinds of stuff are we doing at the national, or anything that you have plans on to help at the local level get the word out, hey, we're here, we exist, and, come, if you want to help, if you want to run for one of these local elections, we can help you, we can do all that.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And you told me your name. Ben.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for your question. And I have a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out with these resources that are hopefully coming out in the next couple weeks, so we'll have a lot more on that. But one thing I can give you that was very, very effective in Kentucky and continues to be, is going where they are. So we often think in terms of, and we're not exclusive to this, this is common with people. How do we get people to our thing? Sometimes you can't. Now, once you have a big enough thing going, then yeah, people will naturally want to come to it. But you may have to go to their thing. And you may have to go to, and when I say their thing, it could be anything from a fair to a social gathering. Right now a lot of this stuff isn't happening, but I suspect this year is going to be a lot different than last year. I think between the vaccinations and the fact that more and more people are like, yeah, no, we're definitely, at 14 days was 365 days ago, we're not doing this again. I think things are going to be steadily reopening and for the good. So I think a lot of this will be able to be used moving forward. Going to, like I was saying, Second Amendment groups, finding out where they're meeting. There's probably a local GOA or maybe even an NRA chapter. There's probably a couple redeemable ones in there, I'm sure. Going to any kind of groups that are getting together for any kind of police accountability stuff. There's a law enforcement group. I don't know how many chapters they have, but it's called the Law Enforcement Action Partnership. Used to be the Law Enforcers Against Prohibition, and then they decided to expand outside of ending the war on drugs. There are officers and retired officers who want to end the war on drugs and end qualified immunity and no knock rates. And it's like all the stuff we like, but they're cops. It's interesting. But groups like this, find those groups in your area, or even just general gatherings, and go out there and meet with people. And be really, that's the warm and fuzzy time. And it's the same thing with, knocking on doors for candidates. You really want to do the warm and fuzzy in those times. You don't have to hit them hard with ideas and policy. You just go out and you say, hey, we're building an affiliate in this area. We want to hear what you guys think about stuff. Ask them questions. I'm going to break down a little bit about a common sales technique that I used when I was doing cold calling. Cold calling is the skill of trying to get someone from trying to figure out how the hell they got your number and how they can most easily get you off the phone to giving you their credit card number in like a 3 or 5 minute period. And I found that if you start off by just asking them questions, it disarmed them and it made them want to answer your questions because now you're talking about something they've been wanting to vent about for a while. So if you go to a group like, let's say you go to a local anti-lockdown group and you say, hey, we're the Libertarian Party, we're against the lockdowns too. What are your biggest issues? Let them talk. Let them talk. Even if they say stuff you don't agree with. Oh man, I'm so glad. No, thank you, because that means I have to remember to mute my phone now. Oh, it already is muted. No, but thank them for me. And whatever they say, even if they don't agree with what we're saying, or even if what they're saying doesn't agree with what we believe, just listen to them. Then ask them some follow-up questions. 2 things are happening while you're doing that. And this is true in inside politics, outside politics, personal relationships. You can game this to become more relatable and, date or whatever. You can really use this for anything. While you're asking them questions and getting their feedback, 2 main things are happening there. Number 1, you're finding out all the things they care about. You're finding out as a person what gets them excited, what will get them to join the party, what will get them to maybe run for office or support a candidate who's running that's a libertarian, or whatever else. You're finding out in sales, we call it pain points. What makes them have pain? What is it that they want to solve? What is it that you can solve for them or help them solve? The other thing that's happening is, whether they like it or not, they're building a rapport with you. Their lizard brain, the most base part of their brain, is associating you with trust and empathy and someone to talk to and someone who cares about their concerns and someone that they can vent to. There are people that pay $100 plus an hour just to talk to someone about things that they're facing. You're doing it for free, not for an hour, but you're doing it for free. And then after you've built that rapport, and it doesn't take long, you know, you can do it for 20 minutes, half hour, 3 minutes, 10 seconds, well, probably not 10 seconds, but you can do it for a few minutes or an hour or a half hour, however long you think it takes. Once you've given them a chance to really tell you everything that you needed to know and let them know that they can tell you what you need to know, then you can reflect back. You can say, you're absolutely right. How dare government tell you that you're not essential? How dare government tell you that you can't operate your business, or that your kids can't go to school, or that you can't go to a hospital to get cancer screening because it's elective? You know, how dare government do that? Here's why the Libertarian Party is against that. And here are the orders and the legislation that even allowed them to do that in the first place. And we want to end all of that, and that's why we want to do blah, 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 blah. And all you got to do is join us, and we can do it together. That's a great way to reach out to people where they are and bring them into your thing. And we've got a lot more of that coming when we have the bigger resources, the resource toolkit that we're putting together. I hope to have it by the end of the month, but we will certainly have it well in time for the midterms and building up affiliates in the meantime. Thank you, man. And thank you. Okay, we'll take Ramon. Hey, man.
Let's see.
Good seeing you too.
So I like what you said earlier about power and recognizing the differences between that. A lot of times in libertarian ideology, I find that when it comes down to the individual, a lot of times power is compromised. Even in the employer-employee exchange, obviously, you know, the power is more so on the side of the corporate. You know, I feel like we recognize the power of also, you know, the federal government. But maybe, you know, some people don't, the state, but even if you recognize the state, you recognize, you know, the power of maybe a city government, or any other type of municipal government.
Right.
So I just want to know, what are the provisions of the individual against the undue power that sometimes these corporations and the business might have over them? How, you know, yes, we all know that in a libertarian society, the ideology is that there's more competition, so you can choose more. But that's still a reactive state. That's not really balancing the power, you see. You're still able to be taken advantage of. You're still, you know, you get exploited, and then basically it's like, well, at least I can choose differently. But, you know, there's no power that's equal in that exchange. So how do you propose having individuals have some sort of defense against that undue power that you might face from business itself?
Okay, so there's a few things there. I hope I'm able to adequately answer this.
Yeah.
But first of all, and I think you alluded to this, but let's be clear that the corporatist system that we are in right now is basically the first thing that would fall under a libertarian society where we have really been able to dismantle the system of power. Mega corporations are not going to be able to exist in a society that has a truly free market. Not because of any regulation, but because of the lack of regulation. Regulation is something that is imposed by people in power in order to create and entrench and grow their market share. And it really boils down to that. If you look at any of the things that are happening on a meta scale in any sector of our economy, whether we're talking healthcare, education, housing, any of these things, it can be boiled down to people that have positions of power in that sector using the regulatory state to impose their market share and make sure that no one can truly threaten it. And in this type of system, and it's everything from, you know, Amazon passing regulations forcing smaller websites to also collect sales taxes to make it so that they're no longer an affordable competition to Amazon, all the way to powerful businesses in Atlanta pushing for more licensing regulations so that if you want to start a hair braiding company or a catering company, good luck, unless you have thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to comply with it. It's these types of things that would not exist in a free market. Not only does it open up more competition, so you mentioned that, you know, okay, you're being exploited by one boss, so if there's more competition, that essentially means you can choose which boss is exploiting you, but it's deeper than that. Because first of all, the more bosses there are and the more potential there is for different employers, it goes from being a buyer's market to a seller's market. It goes from the consumer, which in this case is the boss who's buying your labor, being the one who can set the conditions, to you being the one to set the conditions, or you being able to just start your own enterprise, even a worker-owned co-op with other people, which, by the way, without going off on a huge tangent, our IRS code primarily targets, or I shouldn't say primarily targets, one of the biggest casualties to our IRS, our US code of taxes, and this is rarely talked about, is worker-owned businesses. It is effectively impossible for a co-op to grow past a certain size because of the corporate laws that are involved. If you and I and a bunch of other people start a worker-owned co-op, we're required by law to either incorporate or pay such a ridiculously high tax rate that it's prohibitively expensive for us to be able to do. So now we have to start having these meetings. We have to get an attorney involved. We have to have reporting. We have to give out shares. That's now dealt with by the SEC. Instead of just like 10 people coming together and saying, hey, how about we all own this 10% and you take care of this and I'll take care of this and I'll take care of this and we'll share the profits 10. You know, that's not allowed in this system, or it's prohibitively expensive to do. So when you get government out of it, and more importantly, when you get the cronies that put their preferred politicians in office out of it, not only do you have more options from people who might want to hire you, because instead of having a high supply of labor, of people looking for work and a low demand for it, you have the opposite. You have a high demand for labor because it's affordable again, and you have a low supply of people looking for good jobs because they already have one, or they started their own thing. Now you're in the catbird seat there, or you can just start your own thing. So the exploitation goes away when the ability to exploit goes away in the first place. And with that, I believe that I am finished. So thank you. Oh, I always give people a chant. When I say you are, you say the power. You are!
The power!
You are!
The power!
Here's where it gets a little complicated. Who am I? The power! No. I'm Spike Cohen. Who am I?
Spike!
Who are you?
The power!
Thank you, guys.
I'm looking at the crowd here and the tens of thousands, probably 100,000 plus people here. And you did it all without burning down buildings? Without looting? I didn't know that was possible. No shit. Boom. According to the media,
these explosions are bullshit.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. Boom.
When you have a large gathering of peaceful protesters, they're supposed to burn it all down.
Boom. These explosions are bullshit. Boom.